How do you like the sound of LLC, EIN, domain, business bank accounts, business licenses and permits, trademarks? You may be thinking, I started a business, this is not the type of work that I want to get into. In my case, I'm building a storytelling game for consultants, and my mission is to facilitate storytelling and team bonding, not do this sort of stuff. But unfortunately, no matter what type of business you have, someone has to do this back-end sort of work. And if you're a startup, it's probably going to be you. I'm Shivani from Let's Circle Back Games, and I'm documenting my startup process. And in this video series, we're going over everything that's happened through quarter one of my business, which is up until March 2024. Steps I took in creating my business was creating a single member LLC. An LLC is a limited liability company, and as the name implies, the purpose is to limit your personal liability and separate it from the business. Definitely do your own research about what type of business structure is suitable for you, whether that's also doing an LLC, keeping it more simple as a sole proprietorship, or a more complicated business structure. Like, for example, a multinational consulting firm that I used to work for was an LLP, a limited liability partnership. So I've heard of LLC filing services and companies, but I'd say you'd probably be able to file it by yourself just directly through your state government's website. In Virginia, that's the Virginia State Corporation Commission. Before you decide to go to a filing service website like LegalZoom or something like that, I recommend just going directly to your state government's website, whether that's the Virginia State Corporation Commission or an equivalent, downloading the paper application and previewing the questions to see if you can figure it out yourself, or with the help of calling up the State Corporation Commission and asking some questions. A reminder or consideration here when you're filing your LLC, at least in Virginia, is that you need to be able to provide a physical address and a registered agent. A registered agent is someone who can accept notices on behalf of the state about your LLC, whether that's yourself or someone else. And these names and addresses will be in the public record. And with that being said, about them being in the public record is that sometimes you'll get mail from banks or insurance companies. Usually just ignore that mail. Submitting my application and hearing back that my LLC has been officially accepted and filed took only a day, so it was a very quick process. The process costed $100, at least in 2024 in Virginia, and there is an annual renewal fee in process. So although I was ready to file the LLC in late November/December, I just waited until January 1st, 2024 to avoid having to do the annual fee and renewal process this one time. It might also be a good time to create an operating agreement, although that's not part of the LLC process. You can find example operating agreements online and just save one to your computer and update it with your information and your decisions. And this is probably particularly important for people that have more than one owner of their LLC. All right, chapter 2. The next step is to get a federal EIN, which is a federal employer identification number. An EIN is similar to a social security number, but for a business entity rather than a person. You can get an EIN through a free online application on irs.gov. The EIN will be handy when you're applying to open a business bank account, and you may need it to file your taxes. Although I will say my tax professional did tell me that since I'm a single member LLC, I could use my social security number to pay for taxes, but definitely check that with your own tax professionals and do some research. All right, chapter 3, which is all about website domains. I'd recommend claiming and buying the website domain name for your company as soon as possible, even if you're not ready to build a website just yet. For example, I have letscirclebackgames.com, but at the time of me recording this, the website is not up and running yet. But with that being said, there are a lot of website hosting platforms and companies, and I went with Bluehost, but take your pick of the options out there on the internet. Buying that domain cost me $25, and I know there's an annual renewal fee, so keep that in mind for your business expenses. So this is where I had one of my first kind of big lessons learned. It turns out later that I realized that I need to also get Bluehost email hosting service. And this is because Gmail and Yahoo put out some email compliance requirements for mass marketing in February 2024 that would mean that essentially mass emails that come from a Gmail would be marked as spam. So if you want to do mass marketing, which I did in the future through email, that you would have to have your own custom domain. Although I wanted to just keep it easy in the beginning and use a simple Gmail for my business, I realized that I wanted to fix that as soon as possible, because the longer I delayed, the more confusion and trouble it would be to have a lot of old projects in an old email, an old Google Drive, and transferring them over to a new one. So I went ahead and as soon as I could, got the email hosting in Google Workspace with Bluehost and got my new email address, info@letscirclebackgames.com, did the email forwarding from the old email, and transferred all my files into the new Google Drive. And I'm just wondering if I did both the domain purchase and the email hosting purchase at the same time, if I would have been able to save money in some kind of bundle, or at the very least save some time and effort. Okay, we're on to chapter 4, which is about business bank accounts, and we're halfway through this video. So I needed to show the name of my LLC and my EIN number in order to get a business bank account with Chase. So I assume you would have to do that for whatever bank you're going with too for a business bank account. I decided to go with Chase Business Banking, but it's up to you what you want to go with. Something you can look into is seeing if an existing bank that you have a personal bank account with also offers business banking. And in my case, I do have a local bank for my personal bank account, but their hours are not very good. It's just basically standard business hours during the weekdays, and you have to go in person in order to open up a business bank account. So I was like, no, this is too much work for me. So I'll just go with Chase because I can do that fully online. I just got one business checking account, and it also came with a debit card. And also for convenience for online purchases, I also got a PayPal account and linked it to my business bank account. But in the future, I might end up getting a separate bank account for business savings as well, since I've seen that recommended a lot online. And to clarify, it's often recommended online to have a business savings account too, so that you can store away money for taxes in the future, or any massive capital investments that you might need for your business in the future. You can also look into getting a business credit card, but personally, I don't have a business credit card. I put in a significant amount of my personal savings into my business bank account, and I use that money. So if you're gonna go ahead and get a business credit card, just of course use it responsibly. I will say that when I first wanted to put in an initial deposit into my bank, it seemed to flag Chase's fraud detection department, so there was a bit of a lag in getting my account up and running to start making business purchases. But once I got that sorted out by calling their help desk, I shortly after got my debit card in the mail and was able to hook up a PayPal account and just get going. And it's been fine ever since. And once you do have a business bank account, it's important to try your absolute best to make sure you're buying business purchases through that business bank account and not through your personal credit cards and your personal bank accounts. So this might also be the right time for you to get some accounting software like QuickBooks or Xero or Wave. And in my personal case, I'm still in the product development stage, so people aren't purchasing, I'm not making sales at this time. I'm just buying products for my business, like the cost of prototype development. And in that case, my tax professionals told me that for now it's okay if I just keep a spreadsheet tracking my expenses. So in this spreadsheet, I decided to track what is the purchase, the date of the purchase, the cost, the form of payment I used, and the expense type. And for expense types, I'd recommend Googling IRS Schedule C expense types so that you can use the same categorization of expenses that the IRS uses. And this might be able to come in handy when you're filing taxes in the future and trying to get tax deductions for your expenses. All right, part 5, trademarks. So once I had my business bank account up and running, I felt like I was ready to apply for trademarks to protect the name of my business, which is Let's Circle Back Games, and protect the name of my premier product, which is Let's Circle Back, in the category of card games. So let's talk about trademarks. Now for context, months prior, when I had originally come up with the name Let's Circle Back for my card game and Let's Circle Back Games for the business, I did a search on the USPTO, US Patent and Trademark Office's trademark search website to see if the name was already taken in my class of goods, which is card games. Other classes of goods are other different types of products and services. So people might have the name in some other type of product that's completely unrelated to my type of product, and that might be considered acceptable by the USPTO. And so if you do this initial search on the USPTO website and see that the name is already taken in your class of goods that you want to use, I would just stop there and come up with a new name, because there will be some confusion and your trademark application might get denied. So a big heads up is that the USPTO has a very long backlog for reviewing trademark applications. So it might take 6 months to a year to even longer for your application to even come up in the queue for them to review. So, and these applications cost a lot of money. In my case, it was $250 per application per class of goods for filing trademark applications on an intent to use basis. So with that being said, here's my advice. Number 1, be sure if you even really need a trademark. If your business is hyper local or very personal to you, like if your name is Mary Smith and you're a photographer that goes by Mary Smith Photography, you probably don't need to worry about people stealing your name. So, and that's the whole purpose of trademarks. So if you're not concerned about people stealing your brand name and claiming to be you, then I don't think you need to go through this trouble. Number 2 is be pretty dang sure on what you want to trademark. In my case, I was very confident that I liked the name of my business and liked the name of my card game, my first product of my business. So I was willing to go ahead and file the trademark applications. But with that being said, if you're not fully attached to the name of the business or the product, or you're not fully attached to the logo, save yourself the time and money and don't file the application until you're sure that that's either the name or the logo that you want to go with. And in the meantime, if you're concerned about intellectual property, do keep in mind that regardless of who files a trademark, it's still important to, it's still relevant to an intellectual property dispute who has been using the name in commerce already. So don't be fully worried is what I'm saying. Next, I would say consider filing a trademark on an intent to use basis. So normally and ironically, trademarks are typically applied for once a product has already been put out into commerce. So in my case, I knew the product wouldn't go out to market until several months after I had already started the business, because I was still refining the prototype. And knowing that the USPTO queue is very long, I didn't want to wait to file the trademark application. So I went ahead and applied for it on an intent to use basis as soon as I could. Next, I would say consider hiring a lawyer if it's in your budget. I understand that that's not affordable for everyone, but in my case, I knew that since this process is costly and takes a very long time, and I'd be very upset with myself if I didn't file the application correctly and then after a year learned that it was denied, I was willing to go to a lawyer to help me with this. And I Googled intellectual property lawyers near me in Arlington and found a lawyer that was willing to help me. And in total, I paid him $750 per application for his services, and $250 for each application to the USPTO. So in total, that process cost me $2,000. And again, I understand that's not possible for everyone. So just a little warning, once you file your trademark application, you might be getting some scammy junk mail about your trademark applications, but you can ignore those unless there's something that comes directly from the government. Since I personally have a lawyer for this, I know that he would be receiving communication from USPTO and providing responses back on my behalf. Let me just give you an example of some of the scammy letters. So 1 second. Okay, so back for my show and tell of the video. I got this letter in the mail from, it has it has my address, so I'll close that, but it says like publication of your trademark and like this information about like my application number and like the classes that it was filed for. And I know they can figure that out because that's public record. And it has like this random like publication fee, which I definitely do not need to pay because this is some random company. And it has this explanation of like the publication of the public registration of your trademark constitutes the foundation of our proposal. We extend an offer to you to register your brand in our private database, www.tmp-register.com. But I don't care about being in their private database and paying them $1,000 to do that. So that's a scam. This does not come from the USPTO. And yeah, just like ignore this stuff. And I bet they get a lot of people who fall for it and unfortunately pay them. So be wary through this process. Okay, lastly, part 6, which is all about business licenses, permits, and taxes. Now this is time to shout out probably one of the more confusing and least exciting parts of the process, which is getting any local licenses and permits that you might need. You need to Google your county and also your state to see if there are particular permits and licenses that you need for your industry and any deadlines for getting those applications submitted to your local or state government, and also deadlines for taxes. In Arlington, Virginia, where I live, there's a home occupation permit for people who operate home-based businesses. And when I filed that cost me $72 this year. And I also had to fill out and apply for a business license in Arlington, as well as filing business tangibles tax in Arlington. For me, one of the most confusing parts of this process of local level business permits and licenses was that they wanted me to provide my estimated income for the year, but it's a new business, so I don't have prior data to go off of. And so they kind of advised me to just give them an arbitrary number to go with, and then I'll have to update them, I guess, once I actually do start selling my product and have a better sense of what my income will be. So that was kind of odd, but in conclusion, what I learned from that process was unless you're making a very large amount of money, you're probably not going to owe the local government taxes. Also, if your business is responsible for sales tax in your state, you need to go search up your state's Department of Taxation to see what requirements you have for that. Yay! So that was 6 different topics, subtopics in the startup series. So today we talked about LLCs, EINs, domains, business bank accounts, trademarks, and business licenses and permits. So I hope that my experience and tips were helpful and illuminated some processes for you that you might also be going through as you're starting up your business. And thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to stay tuned for the next video in the startup series and let me know if you have any questions. So thank you again, like and subscribe. Bye.